So, my last video was a lot, but it seems like, generally speaking, the reception was very good. That is, of course, with one minor exception. The main critique I have seen of my ranking every One Piece character video is that I didn't spend enough time talking about the individual characters. Which on one hand makes sense. There were over 1,500 characters. If I took time to talk about every single one, I would probably just die. But I do understand people's desire to hear me explaining why I have certain characters in certain ranks. So today, I am going to talk about two of those ranks. I'm going to talk about the S tier characters, and I'm going to talk about the F tier characters. And just like last time, these characters are going to be in alphabetical order. So don't get upset if I don't talk about your favorite character before this character or that character. The order isn't relevant. But with all that out of the way, let's get started with the first S tier character, Bartholomew Kuma. Kuma is a character that I have loved since his first introduction in Thriller Bark. I thought his powers were cool, I thought his design was cool, I thought the fact that he was a cyborg was cool. I liked just about everything about this character. And if that was all we ever got from him, I would have still had him in A tier. But that is not all we got from Kuma, because in Egghead, we got to learn who Kuma truly was, and it was devastating. One of the things that I love about One Piece is the emotions that this story can make me feel. And Kuma's flashback is a prime example of that. Like, I was crying over Kuma's backstory just hearing other people talk about it. Before I even got to see it or read it, hearing other people say what happened, I was already in tears. This man has gone through so much. He has endured and suffered for his family so much. He is such a loving and caring person who has had so many horrible things happen to him. And still he continues to fight on for the people he cares about. If that's not S tier behavior, I honestly don't know what is. But then, up next, after Kuma, is Batchee. Now, I know this is going to be a bit of tonal whiplash from the trauma of Kuma, but Batchee is hilarious to me. Batchee, for those of you who don't know, is the fly that Full Body put in the soup in the Baratier. Or I guess if you're an anime watcher, for some reason, silverfish, I guess? Either way, it's the bug he put in the soup. But the thing that's funny to me about Batchee is not the fact that he is a fly that got put in soup. The thing that's funny to me about Batchee is the fact that he's named Batchee. The fact that he has a name at all. Not only does he have a name, but periodically One Piece does character popularity polls, and in the 7th popularity poll, Batchee was ranked by fans to be the 112th most popular character out of 1,500. Batchee almost cracked the top 10%, and I think that is beautiful. And I think it's indicative of the level of seriousness in One Piece as a whole. Like, there are absolutely very serious things, Kuma being a great example, but there's also absolute nonsense like Batchee. And that is why he is S tier. But now, moving on from Batchee, we get to Bellemere. One of the patterns I noticed when making my tier list was that I had a lot of great parents in S tier. And Bellemere is a great example of that. Bellemere is, I think, the best mom in One Piece. As a character, I think she's fantastic because I've talked a lot about how Marines in One Piece are not good. And she was a Marine who saw the atrocities being committed and said, hey, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm gonna do my part to actually make people's lives better by raising these two girls. And raise them she did. Outside of just being a fantastic mother, one of the other things that made me love Bellemere as a character was the fact that she took shit from absolutely no one. Like, when Arlong showed up and was like, hey, we're gonna fuck up your shit, we're gonna take all your money, we're gonna do this, she said, hey, hypothetically, what if you had a gun in your mouth? That shit was incredible. That was awesome. And then, of course, there is the emotional impact of the character on people like Nami and Nojiko. I think her death is one of the first ones that I vividly remember when I was younger, which is funny because I actually watched the 4Kids dub in which she didn't die. For those of you who don't know, in the 4Kids dub, Arlong doesn't shoot her. He just points at her with his empty hand and says, "I'm gonna put you in a dungeon forever." And then, despite the fact that in this continuity she's in a dungeon and not dead, when they defeat Arlong, they never release her. So I think she does still die in the 4Kids dub. But 4Kids dub aside, her death was a very important, very impactful moment in the story for characters like Nami. And it is because of that reason that she is in S tier. But then up next we have the legend himself, Bentham Bon Clay. I love this man with my whole heart and soul. In fact, I loved him before Impel Down. I just loved him as a character because he was fun. He was a silly, goofy guy slash gal in some big ol' poofy pants with swans on his back. What's not to love about that? But then, Oda says, what if this character was the absolute emotional core of this arc? One of my favorite breakdowns of the Alabasta arc focuses on how Bon Clay is sort of a representation of the themes of the arc, where like Baroque Works as an entity is designed to discourage friendship at all costs. Nobody knows anybody's name, everybody's meant to distance themselves, no one's meant to be close to one another. Despite the fact that Baroque Works is discouraging everyone from being close to one another, Bon Clay immediately bonds with not only his crew, but the Straw Hat crew. He is constantly talking about friendship and how important it is. And because of him, they all got to have that moment where they were showing Vivi that they were indeed still friends. And they do that by showing her the X that they wrote on their arms. The X that is there because of Bon Clay. And that's just in Alabasta. That's not even addressing how incredible he was in Impel Down. Impel Down Bon Clay is the most ride or die friend I have ever seen in just about any series ever. Not only did he nearly die trying to get Luffy down to Ivankov, not only did he spend hours upon hours screaming his support while Luffy suffered in the other room, but he also in the end sacrifices himself for Luffy again. Because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the reason he was in Impel Down was because he sacrificed himself for Luffy in Alabasta. Bon Clay is the epitome of what it means to be a friend. And it is because of that that he is in S tier. But moving on from the epitome of friendship in One Piece, we arrive at Capone Bege, the epitome of being a good husband and father. I think one of my favorite quotes about Capone Bege is that Bege is the man people think Senor Pink is. Like, this man loves his wife and he loves his child and he is there for them no matter what. As far as fathers and husbands go in One Piece, I think Kuma's the only one who's even close to Bege. And that's all without even addressing the fact that his powers are really cool. Like, I know Paramecia's are supposed to be like the catch-all group, but like, his powers are very distinct from every other power we've seen. Not only does he turn into a big old castle, but he can like shrink people and put them inside of him? That's insane. Also, let's face it, gangsters are cool. And he's like the coolest brand of gangster. That like Italian mafia style gangster, like that's a cool gangster. And it is for all of these reasons that Bege is in S tier. And then I guess I should probably include the next character I had in S tier along with Bege, because it is literally just Bege's baby. And the reasons that I put this baby in S tier are far more shallow than just about anyone else other than maybe Batchee. I think it's really funny that this baby has a mustache and its pacifier looks like a cigar. That is genuinely the entire reason it's an S tier. That's just a funny design for a baby. I genuinely wish I could say more about this baby, but like, that's all there is. That's all I care about, is that it's a funny design. That is the entire reason it is an S tier. But then, taking a small break from S tiers, we are going to drop all the way down to the first member of F tier. And that character is Charlotte Flampe. I hate this child. The first time we ever see this character is in the middle of the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, where she is talking about how great her brother is, how she loves him, and how he's the greatest in the world. And she uses some poison darts to try to ensure that Luffy can't beat her glorious big brother. But that's not the reason I hate her. Interrupting a fight is one thing. It's what happened next that infuriates me to my core. When she sees Katakuri's face, when she sees the face of the brother she was just glazing to high heavens, she can't stop yelling about how gross and ugly he is. Oh! What? How? I'm mad right now. I'm mad all over again. The sheer audacity of this character to show up, interrupt this fight, talk about how great her brother is, and then immediately call him ugly directly to his face. I need to breathe. I need to take a minute and breathe. I am so mad. I'm so filled with rage at this annoying little child. This annoying little shit. Oh God. She's also, I don't even understand when she got there, how she got there. Nothing about her character makes any sense to me. She just manifested to piss me off specifically. Oh God. I hate her. I hate her so much. That is why she is in F tier, because I hate her. Oh gosh, I need to catch my breath. We need to go back to A tier, where I can relax and just talk about beautiful, beautiful people who are amazing and I love. Speaking of beautiful people, let's talk about ChouChou. This dog is, I think, a prime example of something that Oda loves to do, which is he will take a seemingly insignificant person or animal or goofy little side character and give them the most gut-wrenching backstory physically possible. Like, there was no reason that people should be crying over this dog, and yet we do. ChouChou is what we call in the business a very good dog. And you cannot convince me that he isn't the inspiration for the episode about the dog from Futurama. That's the exact same story, but in a different show. Although I guess now that I say that, I feel like dogs have done this in real life, haven't they? Maybe ChouChou is based on a real dog. Huh. Or maybe real dogs are based on ChouChou. Either way, this is a fantastic dog, an unnecessarily tragic backstory, and an all-around very memorable character. And it is for all of those reasons that ChouChou is in S tier. Scratch that! Actually, I'm back. I have a complaint. I very much liked the live-action interpretation of Buggy's arc, except for the fact that ChouChou wasn't part of it. Like, I know there was a dog there, and people were like, oh, that's ChouChou. Give me ChouChou's story! Give me your story! That's why live-action shouldn't exist, because they disrespect our boy ChouChou. Anyways, on to the next character. Ooh, this is great. Up next is our first S-tier villain, Don Quixote Doflamingo. I love Doflamingo, not just because he looks sick as hell. Like, his design is incredible. Like, the pants, the jacket, the glasses, everything about him is sick. But he is a villain who just is a villain. And I think that that's, like, kind of rare these days. Just about every villain needs to have some tragic backstory, some deep, compelling reason why they are the way they are. And when we see his backstory, it's just like, nah, he was always like that. He always sucked. And I have nothing but respect for that. Well, not for him, but for Oda doing that. The fact that his traumatic backstory is that his dad gave away their slaves. That's insane! Doflamingo is straight up just a sociopath who likes to hurt people and wants to watch the world burn. And don't even get me started on his speech at Marineford. Doflamingo has a view of the world that is profound yet simple in a way that's incredibly compelling. Also, let's face it, his powers are cool. His powers are a great example of another thing that I love that Oda does, where he takes something that seems incredibly simple and expands on that in a way that becomes almost exponentially more complex. Like, his power is to create strings. What are you supposed to do with that? Well, apparently you're gonna make clones of yourself fly through the clouds and control people's bodies. Like, what the hell? That's an incredibly versatile set of things that this string fruit can do. And it is for all of these reasons that Don Quixote Doflamingo is in S tier. But then from one brother to the next, also in S tier, Don Quixote Rocinante, we got our boy Corazon. Corazon, interestingly enough, is another example of a character who is just like a good dad. Like, sure, he's not literally Law's dad, but like, he's Law's dad. But seriously though, I love Corazon as a character. His dedication to trying to find a way to cure Law is something that will stick with me forever. And I do have to point out that much like Bellemere, he was a cop who was doing cop stuff. But then he said, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna help this child who needs me. And that is S tier behavior. A lot of people tried to goof on me because I said there were no cops in S tier and then put Corazon in S tier. But I stand by that decision. He was not acting as a cop in his quest to heal Law. His job as a cop was to spy on the Doflamingo family, and he fully stopped doing that to help Law. But then, of course, you can't talk about Corazon without talking about his death. Corazon's death, I think, is one of the most impactful death scenes in the entirety of One Piece. Like, I think you could maybe make an argument for one or two other characters, but like, he is for sure top 3. The moment of Law silently crying as he walks away, and the realization when he can hear himself again, is devastating in a way that I can't even describe. Like, I'm actively fighting off tears right now just as I describe what happened. That is how emotionally impactful this death was. The genuine kindness and goodness of Corazon is a perfect foil to the cruelty and evil of Doflamingo. Oda was absolutely cooking when he made these two characters. And it is for that reason that Corazon is in S tier. And oh my god, speaking of memorable deaths, up next, Whitebeard. Whitebeard was not only sick as hell, not only super powerful, super cool, an amazing ability, but the scene of him dying and his jacket sliding off his back to reveal that he has never once received a scar on his back from running. The sheer contrast between his perfectly pristine back and the front of him in that scene is incredible to me. And let's face it, this man's aura was crazy. The way he had Akainu sweating, just that the shot of him standing over Akainu and Akainu just being like Marineford was a fantastic arc, and a lot of that is due to the sheer presence of Whitebeard. But then even on top of all of that, as I said, he is a great father to all of his crew, which is a really cool concept for a pirate crew. A man who became a pirate essentially to search for a family is a beautiful concept. Like, I think a lot about the moment when Squard stabbed him and was like, they told me you're gonna betray us or whatever, and he just hugged him and was like, you dumbass. That's so sweet! That's so adorable! What a loving father to this little dumbass. On a side note, fuck Squard. How are you gonna believe Akainu telling you some shit like that? Like, come on, man. You're gonna believe Akainu over Pops? All my homies hate Squard. But this video isn't about Squard. Honestly, I could have put him in F tier. I think I had him in D tier. He's pretty close. But this section isn't about Squard. This section's about Whitebeard and how great and cool he is. And yeah, honestly, I feel like that's all I gotta say about Whitebeard. He was sick. He's a loving parent to his crew. Cool powers. All around fantastic. I see no flaws in him. And because of that, I gotta put him in S tier. But then, moving on from Whitebeard, we get to my favorite villain in One Piece, Enel. People are often shocked when I tell them that Enel is my favorite character, because people hate Skypiea because they're dumb and wrong. Skypiea is a great arc, it's super fun, and the fact that people don't like it is genuinely shocking to me. Like, oh, it felt so disconnected, it felt so fun and awesome? I'm sorry? I think I misheard you. And a lot of that fun does come from Enel. Enel, much like Doflamingo, is a character who just kinda is. Like, he's a super powerful guy who just thinks he's God, or rather knows he's God. And as God, people should do what he says, and if they don't, he kills them. He has a God complex that is almost unrivaled in fiction. Like, not even Light Yagami thought he was a god as much as Enel did. Now, I will say one thing about Enel. My view of him is a little clouded by the fact that Enel was the final villain I saw when I watched as a child. Like, back in middle school, when I was first watching One Piece, I stopped being able to watch it in Skypiea. So Enel was effectively, for a large chunk of my life, the final villain of One Piece. And he seemed like a very good final villain. His powers were sick. Mantra was cool. His design is sick. His attitude, his aura, everything about Enel was sick. Even to this day, with all of the devil fruits we've seen, I think that his lightning fruit is one of the coolest. Because not only does it give him the standard Logia kit, but it also lets him merge into conductive materials like gold, amplify his observation hockey / his mantra, and even restart his own heart when he was killed. That's fucking sick, dude. Are you shitting me? Genuinely, how could people not like this dude? And also, I do need to mention, a lot of people leave comments about this when I talk about him on TikTok. Some people, when referring to this character, call him Enel, and other people call him Inaru. And that's not because he has two names or anything, it's just a translation thing. In Japanese, L and R are effectively the same sound, and so when translating into English, translators kind of just need to guess which one it is. But you might still be asking yourself, why do I call him Enel instead of Inaru? Well, this is actually really fascinating. In English, names ending in L are often associated with the biblical God. This is in fact the reason that so many angels' names end in L. The name El is effectively the name of God, and so when a name has that in it, it has a sort of divine sense about it. And while Inaru is a perfectly good energy pun, Enel? It's like energy god. That seems like a perfect translation to me. So I will always call him Enel. But with that side tangent over, Enel is just sick. I love everything about him. I can't think of a single thing I would change about his character, and it is for that reason that I have placed him in S tier. Then up next, we have our man, Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger is a phenomenal character. And not just because of the fact that you could argue he's also a good parent in his backstory. And I'm not gonna lie, I just thought of that just now. I didn't even think of that when making the tier list, but he did kind of act as a father figure to Koala, so that's actually kind of crazy. But no, the reason I have Fisher Tiger in S tier is because I can't think of a more S tier behavior than freeing slaves. Like, that's pretty good. But not only did he free the slaves, he also went out of his way to get this one singular slave girl back to her family. But then, of course, as with many characters, there is his death scene. The scene of Fisher Tiger dying is a scene that feels incredibly powerful to me. The fact that he had so much hatred in his heart for humans, that he didn't want to have their blood in his body. The fact that he would rather die than have that blood in him. But at the same time, he wanted to make sure that that hatred wasn't passed on to the next generation. But he couldn't stop himself from feeling that hatred. I think there's something incredibly profound about that. Where, like, you can't control the fact that you hate someone for wronging you. Fisher Tiger had a deep understanding of, like, generational trauma and the ways in which your hatred for a group can be passed down to the next generation. And I think that that is an incredibly deep and profound message to find in the Goofy Rubber Pirate Show. And it is for all of these reasons that Fisher Tiger is in S tier. But up next, after Fisher Tiger, we have the Going Merry. Now, plenty of people will say that the Going Merry shouldn't be on this list because the Going Merry is not a person. And to those people, I say, not only is the Going Merry very much a character, it's also like fully alive, and that was kind of a huge plot point. It really pisses me off when people say that Usopp was crying over a boat. Like, we all know the boat's alive, right? Why are we still treating it like it's just a boat? I have to say, I love the Merry. And I think a lot of that does go back to a similar thing as with Enel, where the first time I watched One Piece, back when I was in middle school, the Merry was the only ship I ever knew. So for me to come back years later and like almost the next arc, have the Mary fucking die? That is a level of devastation that is hard to describe to someone who didn't experience that. Though speaking of experiencing that, I guess we're gonna have to talk about the death of the Mary. Because I think the death of the Mary is, in a way, infamous within the One Piece community. Because we're crying over a boat. Like, the boat died, and we're crying now. And that's insane. How do you explain that to someone who hasn't watched One Piece? You can't explain why you're crying over this boat. But all of us know it. All of us feel that emotion. We all watched every arc as the Mary got more and more damaged. We all heard the Mary thank them as it burned. We all loved a ship. We all loved a ship, and that's incredible. I can't imagine, like, the skill required for Oda to make us care this much about a boat is fucking insane. And that's without even addressing, like, all of the happy moments with the Mary. There was so much joy in this ship. All of the happy memories with this boat, from the first time they got the Mary, to the time they dressed it up as a chicken to ride it up the knock-up stream, to the time that it sailed itself to Eni's lobby to save them. The Mary was just a beautiful ship. And it's a silly ship, too. Look at this face. What's not to love about that? I think the Mary in a lot of ways is like a distillation of the vibes of One Piece, where it is simultaneously just a silly little boat, and also you're gonna cry about it. And it is for all of those reasons that the Mary is S tier. Up next is Hiriluk. Hiriluk was genuinely the first death in One Piece that truly messed me up. Like, obviously, Bellemere's death was sad, but Hiriluk to this day hurts. And that is largely because of his speech at the end, "When does a man die?" The fact that in his last moments, he was thinking about Chopper and wanting to reassure him that the poisonous mushroom isn't the thing that killed him. He's just another great dad. We're back to dads! Hiriluk is simultaneously an incredibly serious and incredibly silly guy. And I love every moment he's on screen. He is a fantastic father to Chopper. His death and the speech before it were beautiful. And slight side note, he was a bad doctor. I need people to remember that. Like, a lot of people talk about Hiriluk like he was a good doctor. He was not a good doctor. The reason Chopper's a good doctor now is because Kureha taught him, not because Hiriluk taught him. Everything he learned from Hiriluk was about heart and about pirates. All of the medicine... No. I don't even know what else there is to say about Hiriluk, honestly. Like, I feel like anyone who saw me put Hiriluk in S tier knew the reason. We all know the reasons that he belongs in S tier. But then after Hiriluk, we have a character who only makes me cry a little bit. Jewelry Bonney. Bonney is a super fun character for a lot of reasons. First, I think her powers are super sick, even before we knew the extent of her powers on Egghead. The ability to just like, oh, your enemy's a baby now, sucks to suck. Or the time that she temporarily turned one guy into a skeleton. That's hilarious. That's a really fun power. But of course, the fact that she has a fun power isn't the thing that makes her in S tier. It's gonna be the Kuma backstory. Like, obviously everything about Kuma's backstory is incredibly sad. And the only reason we get to see that backstory is because of Bonney. The fact that she was revealed to actually be a child who's on a quest to save her father is fucking incredible. To save him from saving her! That's the craziest part too! Kuma became the way he is to protect her, and now she's doing all of this to try to protect him. And it's just this cycle of love that I really think is beautiful. So when we take this combination of an incredibly sad, poignant backstory, pair it with a current quest to save your father, and the goofiness of a child, that's an S tier character. Also, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. I was talking about the general abilities of her powers, but like the later reveals of her powers in Egghead are so sick. Like the fact that her powers are theoretically super weak because the more you know about the world, the less you can do with the powers. Like the older you get, the less powerful this ability is, which makes the fact that she is a child perfect. Almost like someone wrote it that way. But it is for all these reasons that Jewelry Bonney is in S tier. Then up next, we have another dad, Kyros. Kyros is once again just a really good dad. And I think his time as the toy soldier, watching his wife die, raising his daughter even though she doesn't know she's his daughter, is beautiful. The devotion, the dedication that this man has to protecting his family is inspirational. But I do want to say one thing about Kyros. Most of the characters I have in S tier I think are borderline flawless. There's nothing about the character that I would change. But there is one thing that I hate about Kyros. Why does he stand like that? He stands like he has 2 legs, but he doesn't. His center of gravity doesn't work. Like, it genuinely looks like Oda just drew a guy and then erased one of his legs and was like, I did it. Like, it pisses me off so much every time I see him standing anywhere. Like, just lean a little bit. It's not that hard. But that one critique aside, I love Kyros as a character. I think he's a fantastic father. I think the flashbacks of him as a toy soldier were very good, even though we did see them like 4,000 times. But yeah, all in all, I just thought Kyros was an incredible character with only one flaw. And it is for that reason that he is an S tier. Alright, it is time to dive back into the garbage pile of F tier. The second F tier character is Foxy of the Foxy Pirates. Honestly, I don't hate this man as much as the other 2 I have in S tier, but I do think he annoys me the most. I will say, of all of the arcs in One Piece, Long Ring Long Land is my least favorite by a mile. And I will admit, some of that is because of the fact that in the anime, 50% of that arc is filler. So I do think if I was introduced to Foxy in a different arc, I would be less harsh on him as a character. But I didn't get introduced to him in another arc. I got introduced to him in this arc. And in this arc, he's just annoying. His powers are alright, but I don't think he uses them very well. The entire arc starts with him, like, shooting a horse? Or did he steal the horse? Honestly, I skip the arc every time I rewatch, so I don't actually remember how it started, but I think he shot the horse, and it only went downhill from there. I think there's a world where Foxy's antics could have been endearing to me. The way that he cheats at literally every single game. The way that he's so insecure about being called Splithead. The fact that he has a sword sticking out of his pants that looks like a wiener. On paper, I should like this character, but I don't. And in a way, that kind of makes me hate him even more. Like, I shouldn't be this annoyed by you. And yet, for some reason, I am. And I don't know what to do with these emotions. Much like Fisher Tiger, the emotions are in me, and I don't know how to stop them. I don't know how to stop the hate. But unlike Fisher Tiger, I am gonna spread this hate. I am going to make sure everyone hates this man. And it is for those reasons that Foxy is in F tier. But then we go back to S tier with my beautiful baby boy, Luffy. I don't even feel like I need to explain this one. Luffy is a fantastic character. He is an embodiment of freedom and liberation and fun and stupidity and adventure. He is everything that I love in a shonen main character. And he is someone I genuinely aspire to be like. Like, this is not a joke. I wear flip-flops in real life because of Luffy. Now, not necessarily because, like, I wanted to be like him, but because I bought a pair of flip-flops, like, 10 years ago for a Luffy cosplay, and I was like, man, this is mad comfortable. And I've just never gone back to normal shoes. I don't like having to put on socks and shoes and tie knots. It's all too much. I just want to slip them on and go. And I think Luffy can relate to that. And that's another thing that I have beef with the live action about. I don't like the fact that he had I don't like the fact that he had shoes. Like, they said it was for the actor's safety, but like, a lot of those fights were not that crazy, and they used CGI for a bunch of them anyway, so like, he definitely could have had flip-flops. I genuinely believe that the real reason live-action Luffy didn't have flip-flops is either because the actor didn't want his dogs out on camera, or like, the studio was worried about the dogs being out on camera, and they thought like people were gonna be weird about it. I have no proof of this assertion, but I feel it in my heart. And speaking of heart, that is another thing about Luffy that I absolutely love. Despite the fact that one of Luffy's main character traits is that he's a dumbass, he is incredibly emotionally intelligent. He has an almost uncanny ability to know exactly what someone needs to hear exactly when they need to hear it. And as I'm saying that, I'm realizing it's probably like literally observation hockey, like you can sense emotions, but I'm just gonna pretend that that's just him and that that's not hockey, because that's better for the video. One of my favorite quotes that I ever heard about Luffy was that Luffy never knows if you're lying to him, but he will always know when you're lying to yourself. And I think as a character trait, that's really cool. Like, it gives him a depth that people tend not to attribute to him. Like, most people just look at the surface level, he's dumb, and call it a day. But he's so much deeper than that, so much more complex than that. And I love him for it. And it is for all of those reasons that Luffy is in S tier. But then moving on from Luffy, we have our next Straw Hat in S tier, Nico Robin. Nico Robin is one of my favorite characters in One Piece. Obviously, I think there is a bunch of very powerful emotions in her flashback, and of course, the I Want to Live scene is top tier in the entirety of One Piece. But it's not just those moments that make me love her, it's also the subtle moments with Robin. Like, I really love her deadpan, morbid observations. Like, that's one of my favorite bits, and it's one of the few bits that I'm really glad that Oda leaned into more post-time skip. Especially when it's paired with Usopp then freaking out even harder and being upset that she said that. That 1-2 combo is really good. But another subtle thing that Robin does that I think is fantastic characterization is that whenever it shows her thought bubbles, it's like a child's drawing. It's like super sweet and innocent, which pairs perfectly with her super morbid exterior. That's a really excellent bit. And finally, the last thing about Robin that I love is her powers. I think her powers are some of the most underrated powers in One Piece. And I largely think that's because of the fact that Robin doesn't fight as much as the other Straw Hats. Like, the ability to manifest any of your limbs basically anywhere is super useful. Like, she can even manifest them places she can't see, like on the other side of walls or doors. And she even has the ability to fully replicate her own body basically anywhere she wants. And I know I said finally for that last point, but finally, we need to address the elephant in the room here. Nico Robin's really hot. And I don't just mean like, oh, she's sexy, but like the way she dresses is peak. I would put almost every single outfit that Robin has worn in the show in A tier, with one single outfit being S tier. And that outfit, of course, being her Baroque Works Miss All Sunday fit. That was an incredible fit, and I don't think it's even possible to design something better than that. But boy oh boy has Oda been trying, cause there have been banger after banger after banger for Robin. And it is for all of these reasons that Robin is S tier. But then up next, from a very serious character to a very unserious character, we have Pandaman. I love Pandaman specifically because it truly doesn't make sense. Like, it's just a bit, but also it's a bit with like lore and canon explanations, and that's insane. Like, in our world, Pandaman is just a joke character that Oda sneaks into panels from time to time. But in universe, he's a real guy who's on the run from like gangsters and shit, and he has like a whole bunch of like other people associated with him. Like, he has like, there's a girl Pandaman, he has an enemy luchador who also hates him, and like there's all this crazy shit happening, and the canon reason that we see him everywhere is because he's on the run from these mobsters who he owes money to. That's insane! That's the exact type of insane nonsense that made me love Batchee earlier in the video. Pandaman to me is the epitome of a joke that isn't very funny, but the repetition of it makes it funny. Like, it starts off not very funny, and then you notice it more. And then you notice it more, and it gets funnier and funnier and funnier. And sometimes it goes so far that it stops being funny, but then it keeps going and it becomes funny again. That, to me, is the core of Pandaman. And it is for those reasons that he is in S tier. Alright, up next we have Portcullis D. Rouge. We don't have a lot of information about this character, but what we do have is that she was a good mom, and if we know anything about me, we know that that is good enough. Portcullis D. Rouge refused to give birth for almost 2 years. That's insane. It is so insane, in fact, that people have come up with fan theories as to how that could be possible. The primary theory being that she was the previous wielder of the Gum Gum fruit, and as such, her rubber body was able to do this. Though I have also heard the idea that she just like used armament hockey to hold the baby in there, and that's a bit unhinged. I don't think I like that theory quite as much as the Gum Gum theory. But yeah, there's not really much else to say about her. She was a good mom who somehow refused to give birth for several years in order to protect her child. And going that far to protect your child is, as we all know by now, S-tier behavior. Okay, this next one is interesting because this character is extremely new to the story. She is one of the children who got kidnapped on Elbaf, and I kind of put her in S-tier impulsively because we don't know much about her character. It's entirely possible that she will end up lower on the tier list as we get more of her in the story. However, what we have of her so far, like the single memorable scene with Ronja, is Gunko forcing her to walk out on this arrow and her just putting on the bravest face she can. The fucking, oh my goodness. This child trying to keep on a brave face, trying to stay positive as she's walking to her death is horrifying and devastating and inspiring, and I love this child for it. She's just a goofy kid trying to keep a smile on her face in what is undoubtedly the darkest time of her life. And for that reason, and that reason alone, she is in S tier. Alright, up next we have Ryunosuke. Now this is another one that's almost as impulsive as Ronja. Ryunosuke, for those who don't remember, is the dragon that Kanjuro drew so that the Straw Hats could climb up Zunisha's leg and get to the top. That is the entire character, but the bit of everyone just like loving this weird little dragon was so funny to me. Its tiny little legs struggling to climb up Zunisha's leg while everyone's like, "You can do it! We love you! You can do it, Ryunosuke! We believe in you!" Oh, and then it gets to the top. It gets to the top of Zunisha and they're like, "You did it! You did it, Ryunosuke! You did it!" And then it fades away as it turns back into a drawing and they're like, "No!" And I think it was either Zoro or Law didn't care. I don't remember which one. I want to say it was Law. Maybe it might have been both, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. But the sheer devastation, like the tears that were shed over this dumb drawing. Once again, this is the thing I love about One Piece. Packing so much unnecessary emotion into the goofiest shit imaginable. And I love every second of it. And that is why Ryunosuke is in S tier. But then moving on from Ryunosuke, we have Ryuma. Now, Ryuma was an interesting character on this list because he was on the list twice. There was Zombie Ryuma and regular Ryuma, specifically Monsters One-Shot Ryuma. Which, like, I understand that that's, like, technically canon, but also there were other characters who had zombies. Like Captain John, we see him alive and we see his zombie, but he was just one character. But no, Ryuma gets to be two separate characters. Though I guess I shouldn't complain too much because this version of Ryuma I have in S tier. I put this version of Ryuma in S tier for the same reason that I almost put Zoro in S tier. A lot of people were mad at me for my Zoro placement, but my reasoning was that essentially post-time time skip, he wasn't as fun. Pre-time skip Zoro has this sort of joy about him, a goofiness that is lost post-time skip. But it's not lost in Ryuma. Ryuma is just pre-time skip Zoro. Or I guess pre-time skip Zoro is just Ryuma, because Ryuma came first. He is just the right balance of goofy and fun and incredibly competent and cool. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Oda is really good at writing main characters. Like not to say that he doesn't flesh out his other characters or have well-balanced side characters, but there's something about Oda's writing when it comes to main characters that just hits that sweet spot for me. And it is for all of these reasons that Ryuma, specifically Alive Ryuma from the Monsters One-Shot, is in S tier. And then finally, my most controversial S tier character, Usopp. People hate Usopp, and I largely believe that's because they hate fun, and also just don't understand his character. Usopp is never going to be the badass of the crew. He is always going to be a coward, and it is because of his cowardice that he is the bravest Straw Hat. Like, on one hand, I kinda get it. Everybody expected post-time skip for Usopp to come back and stop being so scared. But like, no one else lost their main bit. Like, Luffy is still dumb, Zoro still gets lost, Sanji's still a pervert, Nami's still greedy. Everybody still has their sort of core character trait. None of that changed. If anything, all of them got worse. And Usopp is no exception to that. But that's one of the things that I think make his character good. The fact that he is afraid is why he is brave. If you're not afraid, you're not brave. And so, like, by definition, in order to become a brave warrior of the sea, he has to be a scared warrior of the sea. And also, let's not ignore the fact that Usopp is just funny. He's a funny character, and that's all he needs to be. It's not Usopp's job to be cool and edgy and tough. That's Zoro's job, and sometimes Sanji's job. Usopp's job is to be funny, and he does it consistently. And I think it's because of the fact that he is largely the comic relief character that the emotional moments for Usopp hit so much harder, for me at least. The fight between Luffy and Usopp on Water 7 is, I think, one of Usopp's greatest moments. People love to shit on Usopp for, oh, he was crying about a boat. But like, the amount of emotion packed into that arc, the amount of emotions that I felt for Usopp, for Luffy, for the Mary, for people to discount Usopp, mostly just because they hate him. Like, let's not get things twisted. People shit on Usopp for Water 7, not because of his actions on Water 7, but because they already didn't like Usopp. But I, for one, am not falling for the anti-Usopp propaganda. I love this man and will continue to love him forever. And it is for that reason that I have placed Usopp in S tier. Now, from the highest high that is my beloved baby boy Usopp, we must transfer back down into the depths of F tier. The final member of F tier, and my least favorite character in all of One Piece, Charlotte Daifuku. Now, some of you might not even remember this guy. Charlotte Daifuku is Big Mom's third oldest son, and I hate him with the burning passion of 1,000 suns. But when I tell people that I hate him, they often get confused because he's not really that important in the story. He doesn't do much. What could Daifuku have possibly done that made me hate him this much? Well, he was a bad character. When you're writing a story, each character serves a function. And it is for that reason that I don't have characters like Charlos in F tier. Yes, I hate Charlos, but like, I'm supposed to hate him. I'm supposed to love watching him get his shit rocked. And I do. But Charlotte Daifuku, the story wants something different than what I got. When Charlotte Daifuku is first introduced, it is alongside Katakuri and Oven. These three characters all got a special introduction of them walking up to this door and doing something to get in before the door guard could open it, right? They are all now in our minds cemented as being on the same tier of character. We have Katakuri, one of the greatest characters in the entire Whole Cake Island arc. And then we have Oven, who, while not stacking up to Katakuri, isn't too bad. He has some good, solid moments. But Daifuku has nothing. His entire shtick is that he jerks off in the corner while a genie fights for him. That's nothing, Daifuku. You are nothing. And that's not even addressing the fact that he looks whack. His powers, whack. His outfit, whack. The way that he stands, whack. The way that he fights, whack. Everything about Daifuku sucks. But the story keeps acting like he's cool. And that doesn't make sense to me because I have eyes and I can perceive him. He is one of the only characters in One Piece that I think genuinely failed as a character to be what it was meant to be. Daifuku just sucks. I don't have other words to say. He just sucks. He sucks and I hate him. It really is like he literally didn't do anything. And I just hate him. And like, look at his face. Look at the attitude that he has. He knows he's the shit, but he's wrong. He's not anything. And it is for all of these reasons that I despise Daifuku. And he had to be in F tier. And that is the final character of this video. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more videos explaining other tiers. People have been asking me for that, wanting me to do a video like this for literally every tier, but I'm honestly not sure if I could do that without, like, dying. Because you see how long this video is. You see how long the original video was. Do you really think I could do this for 1,000 more characters? Because I don't. I don't think I could do that at all. But I can do this video. And I have. You've just watched it. And because you've watched it, I want to thank you. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting me. My tier list video was a lot of work, and I am very glad that people have been enjoying it and wanting me to expand on what I did in that original video. It means a lot to me, and I am super grateful for all of your support. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!